bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department, quick lane inspections, routine difficult. Yeah, they take care of it all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Basketball programs across the country going through their summer workouts. They get 4 per week. Mike Rhodes, they got 2 more weeks to go for Penn State till August 7th, and then they'll wrap up their summer sessions. Mike has a new team except for Ivan Juric, and Juric is the key behind everything Mike Rhodes has this season.
Proud of his approach of this in this summer.
Mark.
Mike, you have a couple of commits who still haven't showed up on the roster yet. I know you have to be careful in what you can say, but is there any update you can give us on when you expect them to be here?
Nope.
Mason.
Coach, how you doing this afternoon?
Great, Mason. How you, man?
Just trying to stay dry today.
Be careful, buddy. Be careful. Allie let us know that it's coming pretty soon.
Absolutely. I am kind of curious about obviously bringing in a lot of older players, compared to the roster construction from last year. Kind of what was going into the decision but just maybe consider, adding just more veteran leadership, more veteran experience to the roster this coming season.
Yeah, well, the situation we're in, and that we're in compared to other Big Ten schools is, we have to, last year we went with a really young team. We went with a lot of freshmen, and everybody in the league got bigger and older and deeper with older guys, and we just couldn't do that. So we sort of pivoted on some of the decisions that you got to learn from decisions you've made, and hopefully, even though we're very limited in a lot of resources, we were trying to get some older guys with experience, and find a way to get them here. And I think we did a good job of that with what we have. Some of these guys have played a lot of college basketball. They're just taking a huge step to play in the Big Ten, but hopefully with maturity and guys having that experience, Mason, under their belt, that's going to help us and all that. So that was a priority. I never want to be the youngest team in Power 4 basketball ever again, and you just got to find ways to be creative as best you can.
Will.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for the time.
You bet, Will.
So when you were recruiting players this offseason, did you feel you had enough NIL funds to acquire the level of talent you want to be at? And where do you feel Penn State stands in NIL when compared to, say, the average Big Ten team?
Well, we're at the bottom. No coach is ever going to say they have enough, right? Everybody wants more in this arms race, this and that. It is what it is. You got whatever you're given. You got to try to do the best that you can with it and make no excuses and figure it out. And, the situation we're in is what we're in. And we got to find a way to, make the best of it and go from there. What teams are doing in our league and what we're not doing are totally different. It is what it is. And just got to make the best of it. But, I've said it. I'm not making any excuses. You just, when your back's up against the wall compared to what others are doing, no excuses. Got to figure it out.
Go back to back. Ryan's here. We'll start with Ryan Yee, then Ryan Will.
Rhodes, hope you're doing well. Appreciate the time.
Ryan, how are you?
Good. Appreciate it. Just want to talk quickly about Brant Byers in terms of what you've seen from him so far in summer training, what you hope he's going to also bring to the table in terms of the experience that he has, obviously coming off of an incredible season with Miami of Ohio. So just what you hope that he can bring to this program. And then if you can, just maybe provide some insight on the process of bringing a Central PA kid back home, because I know for him it's probably super exciting.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun. I'm really excited for Brant. Two things that I think stand out the most is that he was really excited to come back home and be back in Pennsylvania, closer to home. Loved Penn State his whole life, so that was really cool. That's not the reason, but he did his homework. He and his family and his agent did their homework on Penn State, and how I do things and how we play and all that stuff. And I think he saw the fit, which I think is huge. That understanding the fit. So from day one, he works really hard. He's super competitive. He's not afraid. You can coach Brant hard. And he has an edge to him. He's got a little swag to him when it comes to competition. He's not afraid. And I've been really challenging him to do more on the court, not just be an elite shooter, which he is, but to do other things as well. And he is absolutely tried to take off with that. And so the process of recruiting him, once he went in the portal, we wanted to make sure we really tried to find older guys with skill and that could really shoot the ball. Of course, he was one of those guys at the top of the list. And then the connection of him being from Chambersburg and us knowing some people that he knows, we sort of ran with it, and it just worked out really well. And we're very fortunate. He seems very happy here. He's working his butt off, and I'm really proud of him. I'm glad we have him.
Ryan Wilt, then Allie.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Super.
Hey, Coach, at this time last year, you said Yvonne really stood out to you as being kind of like, wow, I didn't realize this guy had all this in his toolbox, and he really stood out to you. Has there been anyone in this offseason so far you're kind of like, wow, I didn't realize he had that? Like, I'm glad we have what we have.
Roberts Bloom from Davidson. He's my type of guy. He's my type of guard. He's just super competitive, works so hard, so into it. I knew he was a good player coming from a good program like Davidson. He was going to, have a lot of things that we were going to like, but he's taken it to a whole nother level. He can make plays. He knows how to he plays super hard. He's about the right stuff. He's a great voice in practice. I've been really, pleased with him. Thomas Allard, a Division II player. Thomas is from Georgia, outside of Atlanta. He's a guy that's probably played 120 college games under his belt, and he could dribble, shoot, and pass at a high level. He gets it. He knows how to play the right way. I've been really, really fired up with him. And so DeSante showed up, had to wait till all his medical testing, and then by the second day he was here, making an impact on the team. So a couple different guys, without a doubt, but I'd say Roberts would be at the top of that list.
Thank you.
Allie.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
All right, Allie, how are you doing?
Good. I hear what you're saying about the resources, and you got to do with what you have. Every year, it feels like you've adjusted both your staff and your strategy and like how to compete in this day and age in college basketball, as well as the Big Ten. How do you go about addressing the resources? There's so many demands for the, rev sharing within Penn State, but it feels like you've adjusted your strategy each and every year. Can you speak to that, like how you're going about trying to navigate this environment?
Well, if you stay the same, you're going backwards in this landscape. So you just got to, sometimes it's adjusting how you go about it. From evaluating to choosing kids to what your pull is. It just is what it is. When the rich keep getting richer, you could stand there and you just got to figure it out. You know what I mean? And that's how it is. So, I'm going to continue to fight for our program as best we can and in a respectful and classy way. And it's all about the players that we have here, the guys that want to be here, and they're going to work super hard for us and represent us the right way. We're going to try to put them in the best position we can. And then for the resources and the program part, you just got to keep knocking on doors and keep talking to people and educating people on what it's going to take and how we go about it. The Big Ten is the richest conference in basketball, and and you see that with the teams that are being put together. So you just got to continue to push forward and find ways.
Miles and then John.
Hey, Coach, I thank you for meeting with us today. I know there's probably not
bet.
much you can say with it, but Josh Reed's one of those guys trying to fight for the injunction. I know there's not a ton you could say about it, but what do you make about this whole 5-and-5 developments coming to the sport? And have you had any conversations that if it goes his way, he can be a part of this team?
I can't talk about that stuff. I will say how everybody knows how much I love Josh Reed. He had a great year for us. His best year in college basketball was at Penn State. He also got his MBA. He's an impressive young man. He's a great example of what we want our guys to be. You know, the rules change every day. If the judge is involved, they change by the minute. It is what it is. You know I don't know what to say about that, and I could jump on my stage and go off like some coaches are. I just am not going to do that. I'm just, whatever. I've always said it. I think I learned this from my dad, who was a Pennsylvania politician for 30 years. Every day's different. You got to be ready to get up and figure it out. One day they love you, the next day they hate you. One day they're giving you something, the next day they're taking away from you. So you just got to be able to pivot, and you got to detour, and sometimes you got to go through the forest. Sometimes it's a clean street. You know what I mean? Like my dad used to always say that to us, like every day is different. You got to figure it out, and you could sit there and cry, but you're never moving. So 5-for-5, judges involved, conferences doing whatever they want. Some days there's rules, some days there's no rules. Just every day's different. Accept it, figure it out, try to make the best that you can for Penn State basketball and go from there. So we'll see as we move on. Today's going to be different than tomorrow, and vice versa.
John and then Nate.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
All right, John, how you doing?
I'm great. Obviously, you're heading into a year 4 with this, and you haven't maybe achieved what you had set out when you initially got here.
Yeah.
Where does this program need to make up the ground the most? And is there anything in particular, I think I asked you this earlier this year, that you would change about the way you've handled the first few years?
Well, I mean, within 3 months of me getting a job, the whole college landscape changed. And so you got to be in the fray, and you got to be in the fight with the people you're trying to beat. You got to do what they're doing. And so that part of it, you just want to be in the same fight everybody else is in. And when you're not, that's really hard. And I think we've had moments where there's some good things, but overall it's it's an uphill battle from day one in a lot of different areas. So you just gotta try to put the most important things that you can change or impact and go from there. So John, I don't know if it's a Penn State thing as much as it is a college landscape and college basketball in the Big Ten. But the number one thing is just having a chance every day of being in the fight and doing what everyone else is doing. On top of that, the change, kids can leave. The development part, to me, the development was always over multiple years, right? Those days are over. You're trying to develop a player as best you can over 9 months, 10 months, and know that you might have to pivot on a kid because he's moving on. That's you just got to accept that. You can't take it personal anymore. That's probably a big difference. I've always felt my programs have developed young guys when they're freshmen to become really good players as juniors and seniors, and you might not always have that now, so you got to be ready to pivot on that.
Nate.
Hey, Mike.
Nate?
I think we saw that you added some size and you added some 3-point shooting. I'm just curious, like, do you have a vision of what you want this team to look like? What kind of an identity for how this team you want it to come together?
Yeah, just we got to be highly skilled and really tough, really tough. We're going to be different. We're going to play differently than I've done in the past, but probably more like I played at Randolph-Macon and at Rice because we just won't have the depth of talent that other teams have. So, we got bigger and we got more skill, we got more shooting. So we're gonna play differently. We're gonna play differently. I'm excited about it. It's been a lot of fun this summer working with the guys on it. So we got to defend at a really high level, different ways. We got to execute at a very, very high level, and then we got to finish plays. I think at this level in the Big Ten, when everybody is bigger and older and there's unbelievable depth, you got to be able to finish plays with whoever you have out there, and that's probably one of my biggest emphasis going into this year, Nate, is making sure we defend and execute and really finish plays to give ourselves a chance to be successful.
Daniel, then Mark.
Mike, once again, you've got a lot of different pieces, guys coming from, a lot of different places. When you talk about meshing together and having chemistry, how have you seen the leadership element develop, and who are some of the guys that have come in and, done a good job from that perspective?
Yeah, I've pivoted from that as much as not talking about as leadership as much as teammanship, being a great teammate before you can become a great leader. Being all about your teammates before yourself, that creates a great culture. That creates it. If you come in and say, "This is my team, and I'm the leader," but you haven't sweated with everyone yet, or you haven't broken bread with those guys yet, that's to me, I think that's hollow. So we're spending a lot of time together on and off the court. These guys have sort of done that organically. It's been really cool to see. We had half the team over at my house yesterday for a cooking class. Now I had nothing to do with it. Our dietitian, Emily, did a great job with our guys, but just doing all different things. One thing about here in the summer where State College is a little bit sleepy, you get to spend a lot of time with our guys. And we, got a big paintball tournament this Saturday. So working really hard in the weight room, working really hard in the gym, and then finding some things to do outside of the gym has been a lot of fun. I think building that in our culture is more important than just the leadership part. The leadership part will start coming when we get back to school, and certain guys that have the ball in their hands and are on the court and have the biggest voices will take over, and we're going to build that together.
Mark, and then Mason.
Mike, what are you able to do with the guys on the court in the summer? And I guess what are the challenges when you talk about all these new faces? I mean, back in the day, I'm sure things would be guys would know what the program's all about. But now with all these new kids, how does that kind of translate to what you're teaching on the court now?
Just play a lot of basketball together, build our team through drills and competition, including the weight room. They all look, no matter what, they all want to be basketball players. They want to be a part of a team, and they want to find a way to be successful. So, we're going to build that all the time and work on that. And it could be a fundamental thing to, live action. It could be individual work with guys to group work and teamwork. Just spending a lot of time in the gym and explaining what's really, really important to me and to our program and what we need to do moving forward. And getting guys to play the right way is the most important thing to me. And, that's been a huge, huge emphasis.
All right, we have time for one more for Coach. We'll go with Mason.
I understand that you're always kind of teaching your players, Coach, but when you have so many older players, do you feel like you're tailoring your expectations, say, hey, I expect you to kind of know this because you've been playing basketball so long, as opposed to a younger roster last year where it's like, I understand you may not know, so I'm going to coach you through. Do you feel like you're honestly just a little bit more tougher and just saying, hey, you know that you've played college basketball long enough?
Well, one of my coaching mantras is assume nothing, Mason. Assume nothing, just like with your kids when you might have told them one time, but assume they don't know. So we're always reiterating what's very important to us. The older guys may have a feel, but they're in a new program too, and some things are new. From the lingo, the vocabulary that we use at Penn State basketball is different than the one they've come from. Just the approach that we have maybe in a certain type of drill that they maybe done somewhere else, all that's different. So it's my job and our staff's job to assume they don't know, and that's where the teaching comes through. That comes through and through, and that's where the communication if you're a high-level communicator with your team and they're a high-level communicator back to the coaches, that's where you can build quicker. But to me, it's always assume nothing. Building blocks, and then build on those building blocks. But then also, hey, let their instincts take over too when we play and we do stuff, and I get to know a lot about them as well.
Penn State basketball coach Mike Rose coming up. Brant Byers and Yvonne Urich in the next half hour. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Marcus Reed in Sunbury, go to purdyinsurance.com. And everyone has great insurance needs. Auto, home, life, basics. May have a business, boat, motorcycle, RV. They handle it all. Organizing everything, making sure you have exactly the right coverage, doing everything you can to find ways to save you money. And that's because customer service means everything to them. At Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury, go to purdyinsurance.com. With that, we bring in Neal Coolong. Sir, welcome.
As always, the pleasure is all mine. And yeah, what a crazy match we have in front of us here.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't say you didn't see it coming, but it was fun there for a little bit.
And now, for one side, it's not fun. All right, so what I've been saying to people when they talk about what this is, what the World Cup may have done to advance soccer in this country, my point has always been there's so many other sports that people in this country play as opposed to other countries where they're locked into a sport. You see the NFL trying to get a toehold into England, get a toehold into Spain, get a toehold into France, Germany, even Australia, where they're trying to get people overseas interested in it. But that doesn't mean they're playing a lot of football in that country, American football in those countries, do they?
That's kind of the modern challenge, isn't it? I mean, it's not about the participation; it's about the viewership. That's really what the NFL has gone after in recent years. Now they're trying to create participation. The U.S., as an example, I think is difficult because somehow or other we always forget just how considerably bigger the United States is than most other countries. Certainly in wealth, we have the ability and we have the infrastructure to promote not just the viewership, but the participation in most sports. Now, some I don't think will ever get a real foothold in, like cricket, for example.
Right.
We're not going to be watching Monday Night Cricket anytime soon, but every other sport has something of a national audience or the ability to provide a national audience. The issue in the United States is we always have to compare it to the NFL, which is a behemoth that really can't be topped and won't be anytime soon in terms of viewership. But the participation is what's said to be decreasing. And as we've discussed before, it seems like the league is pushing the flag version of the game as a potential alternative for the future. And that fits perfectly, I think, with an initiative to expand into other countries, not just from a viewership perspective, but from a participation perspective. The flag game itself, I think, differs enough from what they watched, that it is kind of seen as a new sport, and it certainly would be played as a new sport in comparison to padded tackle football. In the end, though, the participation piece, I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, for the same reasons in the United States, you don't necessarily get kids choosing to play soccer over more culturally embedded sports, which really I would probably lead with basketball ahead of anything else. But certainly football historically is a big part of that over the last 70, 80 years. So getting England, Germany, Italy, these soccer mad places, even to draw 10% of the kids playing those sports into this seems like a pretty insurmountable challenge. Just more than anything, I think what you can point to is the lack of significant viewership following of soccer in the United States. You cannot argue over the last 30 years there have not been ample opportunities to grow the sport. Now, how you want to define that, I think, is a different conversation. But what we saw last night, if we're going to use that as a measuring stick, we haven't really gone anywhere in that time on the men's side. The women's game, with all due respect to easily the most successful brand internationally, I think, outside of basketball, the United States has, with 4 World Cups. They've completely dominated, but it's a sport that's still somehow restricted to women in a lot of other countries. So you can't even really look at that as a pure world view. All that rambling said, I don't think the United States internationally, the NFL doesn't necessarily need to get massive numbers, but slow growth over time kind of gives them a sense of a foundation that they can build moving forward. They want to get more exposure. They want to get more participation. Theoretically, that would lead to more eyeballs back to the U.S. For their product and give them the ability then to expand maybe that brand deeper into Europe compared to where they are now. And it's strategically, I think it makes a lot of sense. And as we've discussed many times, I don't know where else the NFL has to go. This is really the option that, kind of, I don't mean this negatively, but it justifies a lot of salaries on Park Avenue for the NFL. Yeah. You don't have anywhere else to go, until you get the next, Brady versus Manning. You have what you have, and you have to grow that. And internationally, I think is the best market to give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. They want more viewers in Europe that will watch. I mean, not participate, but watch, and also sell more merchandise. I think that's a twofold purpose for them. If they can get anybody playing and so forth, that's really neat. But I think to me, that's a third tier compared to what I think are the first 2 tiers.
Yeah, you really got a multiple level approach to it all. The same, it's no different in the U.S. You're putting all these stuff out there. On one hand, Patrick Mahomes on Monday night sells, red Chiefs number 15 jerseys, but it also sells Bud Light. You're putting a product out there that people are watching. That attracts more opportunities to generate revenue. And I certainly think you have big enough of an audience in Europe and other places as well. And you have clearly a group of people who are just as, if not more so, dedicated, intensely following sports, competition, whatever that happens to be, where they are. I do think there is a cultural hindrance that they're never going to overcome. There's no way that this is ever going to outpace soccer internationally. There's absolutely no way that's going to happen. But that doesn't need to be the goal. Certainly, it's not like, well, we can't do that, then don't do it. No, they can get a pretty nice market share, I think, with the product if they have something that connects them to it, because I think that's the biggest reason why we don't get into soccer in the United States as much as maybe not as much as other places, but our interest has grown. Our product is kind of flat on the men's side, which clearly is the bigger brand. I think more of that is just because we don't really have anything to root for. Now everything that just happened leading into the game, what should have been a huge moment in American sports that fell completely flat on its face. we always seem to have that. The last time it was we didn't even qualify for the World Cup. Now, this is what we ended with. We don't have anything to grab onto emotionally. That's really what it's about. In football, you've got, well, my dad and I used to watch this team when I was 6 years old, and I remember all this. There's this nostalgia, that emotional connection. It just doesn't exist with soccer. We're not going to get that from the MLS. We know that it's an inferior product. We don't even have to watch the game to know it's an inferior product. How do you overcome that? You've got to have both. You've got to have something that can be passed down from one generation to the next, and that's a tough thing to build. But certainly, they can grab what's there for them to grab right now. Because let's be honest, if there was professional flag football, it's not like those guys are going to be making a whole lot of money. So,
right, exactly.
They got to build. It's one brick at a time.
Yeah, one brick at a time is right. And look, like Manning and Brady are both retired. One's doing commercials left and right. The other one's doing TV. And what I find interesting is that what helped the NFL popularity in the last couple of years was somebody who didn't play. And of all people, Taylor Swift. I mean, they can't show her enough up there. And of course, the two of them got married over the weekend. But I mean, they've latched on to somebody else to make it more exciting.
If you were to remove any and all religious brands, for lack of a better word, insignia, anything like that, beyond the NFL and soccer, I don't think there's anything, and even with those, I don't think there's anything bigger than Taylor Swift. So when the NFL is bowing down to this one person who, in a sense, through chance, became, very closely related to that product, it brought a lot more eyeballs into it, for sure. I worked at the height of that on a trending news desk. It was amazing how much traffic a lot of those articles got, but more importantly, the source of them, where they came from. There are ginormous Taylor Swift fan club Facebook posts, Instagram pages. They linked out to something that you wrote about them. It turned into the biggest fishing expedition that I've ever been a part of. And it was literally just, you're throwing stuff up, hoping one of these places grab onto it. Yeah. And I'm talking, these are major brands. This is USA Today. This is Sports Illustrated. We bowed in wake of the power of social media with anything involving Taylor Swift. So the NFL, to the degree that they can, because let's keep in mind, this is a whole other topic for another time, but Taylor Swift has done a phenomenal job in this day and age of being pretty well protected, guarded.
Yes.
There are, lots of people make billions of dollars off of her overall. I'm sure she's aware of that. But for what it could be, it's pretty remarkable how tightly controlled she is. So the NFL can't get, for example, if Taylor Swift came out and said, hey, you know what, I want to sing at the halftime show. Absolutely, done. Well, we already signed these people. Nope, it doesn't matter. Out the door. Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl halftime show would be the most viewed moment in TV history, I'm sure. They could do that. I'm sure they have tried, but there's only so much you're going to be able to do. If Taylor Swift doesn't want to do it, or there's something about it that just doesn't fit, which it seems like from my viewership, and this is really, I know Taylor Swift because I have a 13-year-old daughter. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't follow anything like that. But if she is involved in something like that, it's because she wants to. It's not because somebody sold her on it. She's making, tens of millions of dollars every day. It's not about that. To have her connected to that, though, it creates a pathway to a market that's considerably bigger than even the NFL. And it's really interesting to see, kind of how the power structure can work in favor of anybody connected with that, up to and including the NFL, which is, still easily one of the biggest, if not biggest, brands in the United States.
Yeah, no question. It is all that and more. All right, so now camps are on the horizon. How difficult is it to answer questions in camps today the way they're structured compared to the old days? And what questions would you have about the Steelers camp before they start?
I think that's a fantastic way to look at it because, I feel like I was at the front end of this, where I came in as a reporter, where I was writing about and covering the league. There was way more information in training camp 20 years ago. And I'm dating myself when I say that because it's funny. I got that from all the veteran reporters on the Steelers beat. When I was there, they complained about it incessantly. Some of that is due to they want to keep things restricted intentionally, to not let the stuff they really don't want to have to talk about all the time get out. But part of it, too, is the activity piece of it is not nearly as big as it used to be. They're not in pads very often, which means they're going through walkthroughs, which tend to be stuff that you're either not going to cover or you're not allowed to cover. When they have pads on, they're doing real things. There are more things that can come out of that, namely competitive things. If it's a dust up between a couple players, if it's this sensational play that happened in real time and not, 5-on-5 passing drills, things like that. You don't get as much, and it feels like your standard tropes, the things that you're covering, your 53-man roster projection, your depth chart, your position battle, this guy versus that guy, you don't get as much insight into that. And it makes you kind of wonder, not that camp isn't important, but is it not less of a tryout today versus they have more or less who they're going to go with, and what they want to do is drill as much of both playbooks as well as special teams in as they can in the time that they have to do it. In the olden days, it was all of that. Guys weren't protected as much because they didn't have guaranteed money and their contracts weren't very big. So, outside of the top 10, you really had open competition for a lot of guys. And that, in my estimation, brought out more information, more news, more stories about the rookies, the new guys, younger players vying for spots, things like that. We don't get that kind of human element as much as we used to. And maybe that's me saying get off my lawn. I don't know exactly, but it does feel absolutely like there is a restriction around the coverage that's there, because there are 5 times as many reporters as there used to be. The team leads them into talking to whoever they want to talk to. And there are guys, I don't even remember their names anymore, I talked to every day when I was there because they were the only ones who were available.
Right.
So I don't think we get as much, and some of that is intentional from the teams as well as the leagues. The media deals that they have in place, they give the information to the rights holders. You can see why they do that. But overall, I wonder how much true competition there really is from player A to player B. Just because they only have so much time and there are so many more restrictions placed compared to where they were 20 years ago. You wonder how much time they really get to actually try out and actually evaluate the players they have.
Well, and part of it is you are limited on the number of contact days that you have. I just don't see how you can go through limited contact and really determine jobs or battle for competition when it's that pared down.
That's what I mean. It almost just seems like they're going to have to work off of a limited amount of information, and that amount of information has still shrunk over the last period of time. Do they not just say, look, you know what, we got to make this decision in March. That's what we're going to go with. Training camp, there might be, we're going to have to make moves for special teams in week 1, and we'll do that. The roster machinations that always come after final cutdown day. But by and large, we know who we're going with. And outside of a few things here and there, we're pretty set with this because we're going to have to be. We got to find a direction and go with it. We don't have enough time to let this play out. There are only so many reps on the field we can give everybody anyway. Let's make our pick. Let them get 100% exposure to what we're going to have them do, so they are best prepared going into week 1. We can't do that if we have them split reps for a week.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do it. I mean, and of course, the heck with preseason games. Maybe I'd say 40% of the teams play their starters in a game for like a quarter or a quarter and a half, and others don't play them at all. So. But they do make you pay full price, just so you could take comfort that that's where the regular season comes in. They make you pay full price like it's a regular season game. But I always feel like September is a proving ground with mistakes left and right. And finally on October 1st, to me, the season actually starts where the competition's good.
Yeah, you and I have discussed that exact point often, and I'll bet you money we're going to say it September 15th or whatever the second, third Tuesday of September is. The level of play in week 1 is drastically different than what it is in week 5.
Brutal.
We know that. I have always said the greatest difference in your team, good or bad, is going to be from week 1 to week 2, because week 1 is barely a real week. They don't have that going in. It's more like that's an official preseason game. Week 2, you find out a bit more about who your team really is. Coming off of that, a week of preparation following a game is totally different than a week of preparation when you didn't have one before that. And it seems like most teams are just kind of like, we're not sure what we're doing yet. We don't know who's who yet. We'll get into more of a groove as we go. And, I don't think coincidentally feels a lot like the NBA. They got a long runway. They have a ways to go. It's not that they're not trying. It's just that they have a lot of unanswered questions that they're going to figure out as they go. So it does totally invalidate the idea of what they're doing in preseason. And with that, to your point, makes you question what they're able to do in training camp, how much time they have in training camp. And keep in mind, too, also important to know, a lot of teams don't have contact at all during the week in the regular season.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Their contact evaluations coming during games, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, so one of us is taking off for a little bit. That's me. So we will rejoin 2 weeks from today, if that's all right with you.
It's going to have to be. It's going to have to be. I'll talk to myself in my living room for 20 minutes, rambling incoherently for about whatever next week. I'll stay in shape, is what I'm saying.
Just so you know, a lot of people think that's what I'm doing every day.
God bless America. Well, how happened, but here we are.
Here we are, somehow, some way. Neal, thanks as always, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
The great Neal Coolong. All right, half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.